The black SUV screeched across the concrete floor, its tires screaming through the underground garage of Hartwell Industries. Before the echo faded, 3 masked men yanked Clare Hartwell from the back seat. The muzzle of a gun pressed hard against her temple. "12 million or she dies," one shouted, his voice trembling with greed. The fluorescent lights flickered. No one dared move. Except for a man in a janitor's uniform, Jack Donovan stood by a mop bucket, eyes calm, posture unassuming. To everyone, he was invisible. But when the first gun cocked, his mop slipped from his hand, clattering to the floor. In that instant, everything changed. The air split with motion. A sharp kick, a twisting arm, a brutal impact. The first kidnapper fell without a sound. The second's weapon spun across the floor. The third blinked and met a fist before darkness swallowed him. When silence returned, Claire stared at the man who had just saved her. His breath steady, his gaze unreadable. A janitor? Or something far more dangerous? For the first time in years, the Ice Queen of Silicon Valley didn't feel in control. She felt fear and gratitude. Jack Donovan was the kind of man people passed by without a second glance. The faded blue janitor's uniform hung loosely on his frame, sleeves rolled up just enough to reveal the edges of old scars. He kept his head down, his movements quiet, his presence barely a whisper in the endless hum of Hartwell Industries. But behind those tired eyes lived a soldier who had seen too much and spoken too little. 8 years in Delta Force had carved him into something precise and unbreakable. He had stormed compounds under moonless skies, carried bleeding men out of collapsing buildings, and walked through explosions that erased sound and color. He had been trained to kill, but more importantly, to survive. When others broke, he endured. When chaos ruled, he became its calm center. And when his wife Emily got sick, that same unshakable strength turned to helplessness. Cancer was an enemy he could not fight, no matter how hard he tried. He remembered every second of her final night. The hospital lights, cold and unforgiving, the steady beep of the monitor fading into silence, the way her fingers trembled when she whispered, "Promise me, Jack, keep her safe, keep our little girl safe." Then the last breath left her lips, and with it, the man who had once led soldiers through hell simply ceased to exist. The military called it honorable discharge. Jack called it surrender. He turned down private security contracts, refused million-dollar offers from defense firms. Instead, he vanished into the quiet corners of civilian life, trading combat boots for cleaning supplies. He wanted no medals, no recognition. He wanted to disappear. In the small apartment on the edge of the city, he found purpose again in the laughter of a 7-year-old girl. Lily Donovan was everything light in a world that had turned dark. She had her mother's smile and his stubborn eyes. Every morning, he braided her hair the way Emily used to. Every night, he checked the locks twice before turning out the lights. People saw a janitor. Lily saw a hero who made pancakes shaped like stars and chased nightmares away with funny voices. But in the stillness after she fell asleep, Jack sat alone on the balcony. The city's neon glow reflected in his weary eyes. He could still feel the rhythm of old missions in his pulse, the instinct to scan for exits, the silent calculation of distance and threat. Once a warrior, always a warrior. But he had buried that part of himself for Lily's sake. Violence was a storm he had survived. He would never let it touch her. Yet somewhere deep inside, that storm still stirred. The world had a way of finding men like Jack Donovan. No matter how far they ran or how quietly they lived, fate always circled back. And when it came for him again, he knew it would not come as a soldier's call. It would come as a test of the promise he made to Emily. Keep her safe. Always. Clare Hartwell ruled Silicon Valley with flawless precision. At 35, she was the youngest CEO to lead a billion-dollar cybersecurity empire. Investors admired her, competitors feared her, and employees whispered her nickname like a warning. The Ice Queen. In the boardroom, her voice was steady as a blade. Her eyes saw through deception, and her mind calculated every risk before others even noticed there was one. But perfection comes with a cost. Claire had been paying it since she was 12. The night her parents' car crashed on Highway 17, she learned that love was temporary and control was survival. Every decision from that moment forward was designed to protect her from ever feeling helpless again. While other children grieved, Claire studied. While they dreamed of families, she dreamed of power. By 25, she had built the foundations of Hartwell Industries. By 30, she had turned it into an empire. She slept only 4 hours a night. Her mornings began with black coffee and ended with empty glasses of red wine in a penthouse overlooking the city she owned but never belonged to. Her schedule was filled with meetings, mergers, and victories that felt hollow the moment they were achieved. She told herself she preferred it that way. Reporters praised her as a visionary, a symbol of female power in a male-dominated world. They never saw the quiet moments when her reflection in the window looked like a stranger. They never heard the silence that filled her home when the city went to sleep. She had lovers. Briefly. None stayed long. They all said the same thing before leaving, that she was brilliant, beautiful, and unreachable. Claire pretended not to care. She told herself that attachment was weakness and that emotions were weapons waiting to be used against her. At night, she would stand by the floor-to-ceiling windows, the city lights glittering beneath her feet. From above, the world seemed orderly and small. Yet the higher she climbed, the colder the air became. Her empire thrived, but her soul stood still. She had everything people fought for: money, respect, power, but none of it filled the silence that followed her everywhere. Beneath the designer armor and flawless control, Clare Hartwell was a woman terrified of one simple truth: that success without connection is just another kind of loneliness. Jack Donovan watched the scene unfold with the cold focus of a man who had already been through hell. The way the kidnappers moved told him everything: their spacing, their grip on the weapons, the synchronized shifts of weight. Not street punks, mercenaries. Trained, efficient, dangerous. He scanned the garage. 3 men, 1 hostage, low visibility, 1 exit. The kind of math that used to decide life or death. His pulse slowed instead of racing. Years of Delta Force conditioning whispered through muscle memory. But this time, it was not a mission. It was a promise. He remembered Lily's sleepy voice that morning. "Tomorrow, can we have pancakes, Dad?" He had smiled and said yes. He could not break that promise. One of the kidnappers pressed the gun harder against Claire's temple. The smallest mistake now meant her death. Jack made his decision. His thumb hit the breaker panel beside him. The lights went out. In the darkness, everything became sound. A step, a breath, a heartbeat. Jack moved before the first man could react. His elbow drove into the attacker's throat. Silence. A quick pivot. A leg sweep. The second body hit the concrete with a dull thud. The third raised his gun. Jack caught his wrist mid-motion, twisted until the bone cracked, then used his momentum to drive the man into the car door. Metal screamed. When the emergency lights flickered back on, the 3 mercenaries lay scattered like broken shadows. Jack stood still, breathing evenly, scanning for threats that no longer existed. The janitor's uniform clung to a body shaped by war. Clare Hartwell, her composure shattered, stared at him as if seeing a ghost. Moments ago, he had been invisible. Now he was the most dangerous man she had ever met. He knelt, collecting the kidnappers' weapons, ejecting magazines with practiced precision. No wasted motion, no hesitation. Then he turned to her, calm, unreadable. "Are you hurt?" he asked, voice low but steady. She shook her head, unable to speak. The distant wail of sirens began to echo through the garage. Security and police would arrive any second. Jack glanced at the approaching lights, then at Claire. "Who are you?" she whispered. He met her eyes for the first time. "Just the janitor, ma'am." And as the flashing red lights filled the space, he picked up his mop, placed it back in the bucket, and quietly went back to work. The footage played again and again on Clare Hartwell's screen. Every frame was burned into her mind. The janitor's movements were too controlled, too precise. A strike here, a twist there, no wasted energy, no panic. It was not instinct, it was training, military training. She leaned closer, replaying the moment when Jack Donovan disarmed the last kidnapper. The way he shifted his weight, the calm in his stance, She had seen bodyguards and private contractors move before, but this was different, efficient, elegant, lethal. Whoever he was, he did not belong in a janitor's uniform. Claire picked up her phone. "Marcus, run a deeper background check. I want everything on Jack Donovan." Her security chief hesitated. "Ma'am, background screenings for custodial staff are basic. If he passed, it means he's clean." "I don't want clean," she cut in. "I want truth." Within hours, her network lit up. Claire had friends in high places, connections built from years of government contracts and cyber defense projects, a call to a retired general, another to an old Pentagon contact. By evening, the file arrived, thin, too thin. Jack Donovan, born in Texas, 8 years of unlisted military service, honorable discharge, no criminal record, no social media, no photographs beyond an outdated ID. It was like he had been erased. Claire frowned. Scrolling through the classified section, her contact had quietly unlocked. Then she saw it. A name buried inside a declassified mission log. Operation Cinder Hawk, Yemen, 2018. The report was short but chilling. Team leader successfully extracted 34 civilians from hostile embassy compound. 0 casualties. Mission executed without a single shot fired. Leader, Captain Jack Donovan, Delta Force. Claire stared at the screen. A shiver ran through her. This was no coincidence. A man like that did not just vanish. He had chosen to, she whispered to herself. An elite operative hiding behind a mop. Why? That night, she could not sleep. The image of Jack in the surveillance footage haunted her. The calm precision, the control, the silence after the fight. She had built her entire career on understanding human behavior. But Jack Donovan was an anomaly. Heroes did not mop floors unless they were running from something, and Claire Hartwell intended to find out exactly what that something was. The underground garage was almost empty when Jack Donovan stepped out of the elevator, the echo of his boots carrying through the concrete silence. He was halfway to his truck when he saw her. Claire Hartwell stood beside his vehicle, arms folded, the glow of the security lights reflecting off her tailored suit. She looked out of place in this world of oil stains and exhaust fumes, a queen who had descended into the shadows to confront one of her subjects. "Mr. Donovan," she said, her tone cool but measured. "We need to talk." Jack froze, every instinct alert. "You shouldn't be down here alone." "I'm not afraid," she replied. "I've seen what you can do." He stopped a few feet away. The air between them felt charged, the memory of the kidnapping still hanging there like static. "You saved my life," Claire continued, "and I don't believe in coincidences. A man with your training doesn't end up mopping floors unless he's hiding. I want to make you an offer." Jack's jaw tightened. "I'm not interested." "You haven't even heard it yet," she pressed. "Head of personal security, full salary, private housing, benefits for your daughter. You'd be protecting me and the company." He shook his head. "That world is behind me." Claire took a step closer, eyes sharp. "You mean the world where you saved people? Where you made a difference?" Jack looked at her, calm but firm. "No, I mean the world where people die because of decisions made in rooms like yours." For the first time, she faltered, her composure cracked, only for a second. "You think you know me?" "I know the type," he said quietly. "Strong, brilliant, always in control, until control cost you everything." Silence. The words hit harder than she expected. "My daughter," he continued, his voice softening, "needs a father who comes home every night, not a ghost chasing someone else's battles. That's all I care about now." Claire's eyes searched his face for something she could use, some weakness she could negotiate, but there was nothing, only finality. He walked past her, opened the truck door, and paused. "You should get better lighting down here," he said, not turning around. She stood alone as the engine started, exhaust curling through the air. Claire Hartwell, the woman no one ever said no to, had just been refused, and for the first time in years, she didn't know how to feel. The next morning, Claire Hartwell walked into her office before sunrise. The glass walls glowed with the pale light of a city still half asleep. Her assistant, nervous and tired, handed her an unmarked envelope. No sender, no note, just a thin file inside. Claire opened it. 12 pages. Each one precise, methodical, unnervingly detailed. At the top of the first page, a single sentence in block letters. 12 vulnerabilities in Hartwell Industries. Fix them. Her eyes moved down the list. Security blind spots in the executive garage, unmonitored access points in the data center, outdated encryption protocols in employee devices. Whoever wrote this had studied her company from the inside. Every flaw was real, every suggestion brilliant. Claire's pulse quickened. This was not a threat. It was a warning, a favor. She turned to the final page and saw a familiar handwriting style, clean and disciplined. She knew instantly. Jack Donovan. For a long moment, she said nothing. The man who refused her offer had just sent her a gift worth millions in potential damage prevention. A silent act of protection. He wanted nothing in return. Claire sat back in her chair, eyes fixed on the skyline. "Who are you? Really, Jack?" she whispered. Later that afternoon, she asked her assistant to pull property records on the Oak Ridge Apartments, the low-income complex listed in one of Hartwell's real estate redevelopment projects. It took only minutes for the truth to surface. Jack lived there. So did his daughter. The file in front of her felt heavier than steel. That building was scheduled for demolition in 3 months, part of a luxury expansion signed off by her own hand. Claire stared at the document, her reflection faintly visible in the glass wall. For the first time in years, her decisions felt personal. This was not numbers on a spreadsheet. These were lives. She picked up her phone. "Cancel the Oak Ridge demolition," she said quietly, effective immediately. "Redirect the funds toward renovation and community housing." The assistant hesitated. "Ma'am, the investors. Tell them it's a strategic shift," Claire interrupted, "and make it sound profitable." When the call ended, she sat in silence. The Ice Queen of Silicon Valley had just chosen compassion over profit. For the first time in her life, the decision felt right. The knock on Jack Donovan's apartment door came just as the evening light slipped through the thin curtains. He froze, instinctively glancing toward his daughter's room. Few people ever came here. When he looked through the peephole, he saw something he never expected. Clare Hartwell, dressed in jeans and a soft gray sweater, stood outside holding a paper bag and an awkward half-smile. He opened the door only part way. "How did you find me?" "I run a cybersecurity company," she said. "Finding people is what I do." Her tone was calm, but her eyes betrayed a hint of nervousness. "I heard your daughter is working on a science project. I thought I could help." Before Jack could answer, Lily appeared behind him, her eyes wide. "Is she really coming in? Dad?" Claire knelt down to Lily's height. "Only if it's all right with you." Lily grinned, excitement replacing shyness. "Come in. My planets keep falling down." Jack hesitated, then stepped aside. "You have 10 minutes. The apartment was small but warm, filled with little signs of life. A drawing on the fridge, a toy rabbit on the couch, a faded photo of Emily smiling between Jack and Lily. Claire noticed everything. She set the paper bag on the table, pulling out glue sticks, wires, and foam planets. "I brought reinforcements." For the next hour, the three of them worked together. Lily's laughter filled the kitchen as Claire explained gravity using oranges and marbles. Jack watched from the stove, pretending to cook while secretly watching the woman who had once terrified half of Silicon Valley, now giggling with a 7-year-old. When the model finally stood balanced and perfect, Lily clapped her hands. "It's like magic." Claire smiled. "No, it's balance. Even the biggest planets need something to keep them steady." Lily tilted her head. "Do you have someone who keeps you steady?" Claire froze. "What do you mean?" The girl's voice was pure innocence. "Like someone who gives you birthday cake or hugs you when you're sad." The room went quiet. Jack looked away. Claire's lips parted, but no words came. Finally, she whispered, "No, I don't think I do." Lily nodded thoughtfully. "Then maybe you can borrow us for a little while." Something inside Claire cracked softly. Like ice beneath the first touch of spring. For the first time in years, warmth reached her heart. The offer came quietly. Just a short message slipped into Jack's locker at the end of his shift. Temporary security consultant. 2 weeks. Full pay up front. He knew who it was from. Clare Hartwell did not ask twice. When he arrived at her office the next morning, she was already waiting. Sleeves rolled up, eyes sharper than usual. "I need someone who sees what others miss," she said. "You do that naturally." Jack studied her for a moment, then nodded. "All right. 2 weeks." It began as business. Long nights reviewing security blueprints. Silent hours spent tracing vulnerabilities through endless data. But slowly, something shifted. Between the hum of monitors and the rustle of papers, they began to talk. Jack spoke little at first. Claire asked questions he never expected to answer. About the war, about Emily, about Lily. Each time, her voice softened, the cold armor she wore in boardrooms melting bit by bit. In return, he taught her things she could not learn from books. How to read people by their breathing, how to sense danger before it appeared. "Observation is survival," he told her one night, "but it only works when you care enough to notice." Claire leaned back, eyes glinting in the dim light. "And what do you see when you look at me?" Jack hesitated. "Someone learning how to live, not just lead." That night, she could not sleep. His words lingered like an echo she didn't want to fade. Days passed. The partnership grew effortless, the silences comfortable. Hartwell Industries became safer under his direction, but Claire realized she was changing in ways no report could measure. She smiled more. She listened. She felt alive. Then, one evening, Jack called. His voice carried a hint of panic. "Lily's running a fever. I can't reach her doctor." Within 30 minutes, Claire was at his apartment with a medical kit and a warm blanket. She stayed through the night, sitting beside the little girl's bed, reading softly until the fever broke. Jack found her asleep in the chair at dawn. Lily's small hand curled around hers. For a long moment, he just watched. The woman who once measured life by profit had traded her boardroom for a child's bedside. When Claire woke, she whispered, "She'll be fine." Jack smiled. "So will you." And for the first time, she believed him. The call came just after midnight. Jack was reviewing security logs when his phone vibrated. A distorted voice filled the line. "Your daughter is safe, for now. Tell Claire Hartwell to transfer $20 million or she disappears." The room spun. His training snapped back like a whip. "Who is this?" A laugh crackled through static. "An old friend of hers. She ruined my life. Now I'll ruin hers." Then the line went dead. Julian Cross. The name hit like a bullet. Former partner, convicted for fraud, released 2 months ago. Claire's silence on the other end of the call told Jack she already knew. Within minutes, her car screeched to a halt in front of his building. No hesitation, no excuses, only resolve. "We get her back," Claire said. Jack's eyes were cold. "We will." They worked from instinct. Claire traced digital footprints through encrypted channels while Jack analyzed terrain data and tactical maps. Within an hour, they found it. An abandoned warehouse near the docks. Claire wanted to call the police. Jack shook his head. "Once we involve them, Lily becomes collateral. We do this my way." She looked at him, fear and trust colliding. "Then tell me what to do." He outlined the plan. She would distract Julian, keep him talking, buy time. Jack would infiltrate from the east side, silent and unseen. When they arrived, the air smelled of rust and salt. Shadows swallowed the building. Claire adjusted her earpiece, her heartbeat loud in her ears. "What if I fail?" she whispered. "You won't," Jack replied, "because you're not doing this alone." Inside, Julian waited, gun in hand, eyes wild. "The Ice Queen herself," he sneered. "Come to bargain for your janitor's kid?" Claire stood tall. "You want money. You get it. But you hurt her, and you'll lose everything." Jack moved through the dark, every step silent. The sound of Lily's muffled sobs guided him closer. Claire kept talking, her voice steady, echoing the techniques Jack had taught her. Build empathy, create confusion, control the rhythm, Then, chaos. A door creaked, Julian spun, a gun fired. The flash lit the room. Jack struck first, disarming him with a brutal precision. The weapon clattered across the floor. Claire dove forward, shielding Lily. When it was over, smoke filled the air. Jack pulled Lily into his arms, trembling but alive. Claire knelt beside them, tears streaking her face. For a long moment, none of them spoke. Then Lily reached out, her tiny hand finding Claire's. In that silence, something shifted. They were no longer three strangers. They were family. Months after the rescue, Hartwell Industries looked different. The sterile boardrooms now carried laughter, the kind born from hope. At the center of it all stood Jack Donovan, no longer a ghost of war, but a man with purpose. Claire had appointed him as director of special strategy, and together, they rebuilt the company's soul. Their first mission was bold, the Second Chance Program, a vision born from pain, designed to give veterans and single parents a new start. Within weeks, old warehouses turned into training centers, filled with men and women who had once been forgotten. Jack led from the floor, teaching discipline and trust. Claire led with compassion, learning for the first time that strength and empathy could coexist. Investors called it revolutionary. Employees called it family. At night, when the office lights dimmed, Claire often found Jack in the break room with a group of trainees, laughing, guiding, reminding them that broken does not mean finished. She watched quietly, realizing the man who had saved her body was now saving countless lives. The woman once known as the Ice Queen no longer hid behind glass walls. She smiled easily now, her power no longer a shield but a bridge. In helping others rebuild, she had rebuilt herself. And when Jack looked at her across the crowded room, she understood the truth she had once feared. Most love was not her weakness. It was her redemption. A year later, the penthouse no longer felt like glass and silence. It was filled with laughter, crayons, and the scent of homemade cake. Lily's 8th birthday had turned the once sterile palace into a home. As the candles flickered, Claire handed Lily a small frame. Inside was the official adoption certificate. "It means," Claire said softly, "I'm your mom now." Lily gasped, then threw her arms around her. "You already were." Jack watched, eyes shining. Then he reached into his pocket and knelt before Claire. The ring he held was simple but powerful, crafted from his old military tags and Emily's wedding band. "For everything we've survived," he said, voice trembling. "Will you build the rest of our life with me?" Tears filled her eyes. "You once saved my life," she whispered, "but what you really saved was my heart." As the sun dipped behind the skyline, 3 silhouettes stood together. A soldier, a mother, and a child, where broken souls had finally found home. If this story touched your heart, a soldier's redemption, a woman's awakening, and a child's love healing them all, then hit like, share, and subscribe to keep witnessing stories where broken souls find their way home again.